Ready to dive in? Welcome to Adventures in Truth podcast. Every episode, we explore, expand, and evolve our understanding of the truths we encounter and experience in our human quest for clarity and exponential growth. And now welcome your hosts, Dr. Jeffrey Smith and Jim Case.
Start today talking about what we're going to be addressing. And today we're going to be looking at setting ourselves up for success and looking at tools for success. How do we build habits for success? So while we're working out on the back end here, I'm going to ask you guys to just think about a couple questions for me. And the first is, how do you build success habits? What are you doing every day that keeps you on track with your joy? These success habits are really key to your continued sustained connection and alignment. So think about that for a second. Think about the things that you use and the things that you build to create for yourself success. And by success, we mean things that bring you joy. Things it is of no value. You're comparing apples and oranges, and they don't compare. You have your unique experience in your unique life that have brought you to where you currently are. We attract others into our experience based on our vibration. We attract others, we attract situations, we attract connections, we attract everything based on the vibration. But we all arrive there from very different paths. So just because a tool or practice someone else has used does not work for you, does not make you deficient or behind than or any other negative response. Habits are extremely personal. So again, honor that.
Question: would you like more Adventures in Truth podcast? We've got you covered. In addition to all of the major platforms we're on, Spotify, Apple, Deezer, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, we are now going to be live streaming 2 times a week. Our live casts will take place Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or Friday afternoons at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. These will be brand new shows, and we're looking forward to your interaction. And you can do that by joining us on our Facebook page at Adventures in Truth and type in your questions, and we will answer them right there on the air with you. So we're looking forward to seeing you there, and we appreciate you so much, and thank you for enjoying and engaging with Adventures in Truth podcast.
I have 2 practices a day. I have my morning practice and my evening practice. Consistently, you'll begin to take on a clarity about it that works in your field. And so you'll continue to do it, and you won't necessarily need to be guided anymore. You'll be able to work in the flow of the energy of that. You'll make your connection to the medicine Buddha, and you'll embrace that energy, and it will be good. So hopefully this is making sense to you. Again, your practices need to be consistent to gain maximum benefit, but you shouldn't be rigid. So we're talking about my different habits, and I want to talk about this too. On occasion, I do not feel any energy for a particular practice, or I run up against a time crunch or don't have time on a particular day. Good. It's okay. Relax. The consistency is important, yes, but abusing yourself and judging yourself isn't. Sometimes the body needs a break. Sometimes the energy needs a break. Sometimes you have a very powerful experience in your meditation or your yoga or your practice, and that experience requires some time for integration. This is a huge thing. Integration is a major part of all of the consciousness work that we do, all of the transformational elements of our work. There is this element of needing that consistency, but not in a way, again, that you're judging yourself or abusing yourself. You can continually be in consistency. And again, remember, we're talking about building the love energy, building the joy, uplifting and moving the vibration up and expanding the vibration, increasing the frequency of who we are. So in doing that, what you get is changes to how you think and feel. So the mind may give you a lot of garbage about, well, you missed it today, so you're a failure, you're never going to do anything. See, this is just like when you go to the gym, you don't do that either. This is just like when you go on diets, you don't do that either. That's all chatter and noise. It's all old story. It's all unnecessary. It's just noise. Again, so the more you lay in that foundation, you lay in that ability to create that solid, not solid, but stable, consistent vibration, then you build on that and you build on that and you continue to change and grow. But you're not that person that the mind wants you to believe. If you choose to buy into it, then of course you go down the rabbit hole, you're in that whole deal of judgment and craziness. Otherwise, give yourself permission, give yourself flexibility. It's the same with meditation. When you're doing meditation, it's so important to not judge the experience. Every day you make progress. Nobody sits down and gets quiet and completely quiet in the first 10 minutes of anything. You haven't practiced it. You haven't worked at it. You haven't grown through it. So give yourself permission. Grow through it. Learn about yourself. Learn about your energy. Learn about all of those things and enjoy them and enjoy the process. So again, choosing to simply put your more energy into one or more of your daily habits. So if one's not feeling good, and make an adjustment, make a shift. I do it all the time. Sometimes you're not feeling all of the time, so you condense and get the most impact that you can, but you're continuing to build that foundation. So if you're too rigid, you'll lose sight of the end result, and that won't serve you at all and will make you an unhappy person. So that's not a good thing. And we're back. Hi. So thanks for participating in our banners here. So those were the guidelines for building those habits of success. So anybody out there, questions at this point? No? All right. So in our previous show and in our previous podcast, we have, give me a second here. I don't know if Jeff is able to get in. He seems to be there, but I don't hear him. Nope.
No.
Oh, there you go.
Hey.
There you are. Hi, everybody. There's Jeff. Say hi to Jeff.
That was a great presentation, Jim. I was following along with all the work you put into this and loved the step-by-step guidelines that you offered. Fantastic, useful, relevant information.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Glad you made it. Here we go. So we're moving on to talking about now, we got into, we were talking, and if there's anything you want to add, Jeff, to any of those things we were just talking about, please take a minute and do so if you want, or I'll carry on from here.
Well, I could tell that you putting the work together and the way that you described it, that it's not something you just read out of a book. I had a sense in just listening to you present the information that there's a sincerity, and it comes across as if you really do it. I love the caveat that you said earlier. I try to do this twice a day, and sometimes it works. More often than not, probably works. The times that it doesn't, you appreciate what you were able to do and there, and try not to get too rigid by what didn't happen or whatever. So that spoke to me a lot. That spoke to me a whole lot, actually. Good
stuff. Yeah, and that's a really significant point, because there's a trust process that I actually didn't really get too deep. I didn't actually talk to very much as far as the guidelines are concerned. And that's understanding that there is an evolution to our experience as we increase our vibration. And part of that is the ability to increase vibration has to come with a level of trust. Meaning you have to, as an individual, I have to trust that, one, that I am who I think I am, meaning I'm more than this body, I'm more than this experience that I'm living, that there's something that connects me to something greater. And I appreciate and love that aspect of myself, as we talk about the observer or the higher self, whatever that is. But the thing that's so important to me about that is trusting self. And it's one of the things that I think most of us lack a lot of. The reason why those daily practices are so powerful is because they continue to, one, reinforce your greatness, as it were, because you're continually looking to connect to the larger part of yourself, or to the universe, or to universal mind, or something that's greater and more, and the ability to be more of who you are. So trust is a huge piece of that, and trusting is knowing that if you're committed to the process, if you're committed to your own evolution, and you know, I'm laying my foundation. I'm building this strong foundation for myself with this daily practice. From place, it's all an act of faith and trust. Because you don't know, I don't know where it goes from here. I only know how I feel, and I only know what shows up in my world afterwards. But the trust piece is in knowing that, yeah, there are days where you get up and you go, wow, I'm just not there. Could it help me get there? Well, I'll give it a shot. I'm going to go in because I love how I feel. Then you get there and there's no energy for you there. And you go, oh, Lord. That's the place where trust comes in, because that's where judgment can leap in immediately and start to take over and start to diminish and undermine everything you've tried to create. It's not useful. So trust is another important piece, and thanks for bringing that up, because it's very valuable to building a good foundation with these success habits.
One of the things I'd like to comment on with regard to you sharing with our audience how you go about your spiritual practice and refining it, sticking with it, modifying it as you go, is that just like any exercise program, just like any diet program, there are so many. I can't remember if it was you or somebody else recently that I was dialoguing with about, there's a phrase that, all roads lead to Rome, or the idea that if you have a spiritual practice, perhaps as long as it's not Satanism, do it, stick to your practice, but have one. I think that's the most important piece, is have one and do it to your best ability. Jim just laid out a beautiful plan for us to consider, of taking pieces from what he's sharing and playing around with that in your own spiritual practice. But what I'd like just to get across is there is no right one practice, but you got to have one. That I hope we could all agree on. That if you want to get somewhere, you have to have some kind of a map. If you don't have a map, and you don't have some kind of road signs and expectation that you're going somewhere, you'll go somewhere, but you'll really have no idea where you're going. And that's what Jim's trying to share with us, is that there's an intention, there's a system, there's a process, and he's sharing with us what works for him. And I've gotten to know Jim pretty well over the last 5 or 6 years or so. And, I can tell you folks that he's a straight shooter, and he does practice what he preaches. There's evidence, there's fruit that comes from that. But please just don't hear that, Jim's not saying do what I do. He's just sharing what works for him, and then we take from that. But I think most importantly is just the idea that you got to have something. You got to have something.
Yeah, very good point. You definitely, and even, I wouldn't say, well, yeah, God is fine, but even you want to have something.
Yeah.
All of us. I mean, really take a minute, everybody, and really dial into this, because I think that what's true is that we want to have that thing, whatever that is, that moment with ourselves, that time, because that's really what that time is. It's time for self. And regardless of how much time even if you can only give it 15 minutes, that's plenty of time to create quantum change if you use focused attention in that 15 minutes. If you have the tools set up for yourself that really get your juices flowing. Some people love to journal. Journaling is a way that they shift their state. it could possibly be a way of starting a foundational place. But part of the challenge with that for me with journaling is that you're telling old stories. So in a lot of times you're using the journal to dump old stories down and document them. And that sort of keeps you moving, doesn't really keep you moving forward. It kind of keeps you where you are and where you were. And so if you're going to use the journaling, use it more as a way of doing appreciation exercises. Use the writing, because some people really like to write. So use journaling as a way of listing your appreciation. Use it as a way of almost like you're writing a news story, you're writing a new book. Begin to write different things that you've dreamed about, things that you've wanted to accomplish, things you want to accomplish, things you want to experience. Start writing about those, writing about how they feel, how you feel in the experience of doing those things, even if you haven't done it yet. The reason you want to do it is because of how it will make you feel. So talk about that. That's, again, 15 minutes, you can do anything for 15 minutes. But again, the key, because when you're in that space, when you're doing appreciation, or when you're journaling about creating your newness, you are actually going into stillness. You're going into quiet because you're focusing your energy in the direction you want it to go. And by doing that, you've just accomplished a major cornerstone of setting your foundation.
Absolutely. And the 15 minutes each day, adds up to almost 2 hours a week. And 2 hours a week after week after week, there's 100 hours in a year. And maybe the next year you double that.
Mm-hmm.
And before you know it, you've got something that really, really works for you. And what I think Jim and I have found, and I'll speak specifically for myself, is that the more you do something that is changing your life, the more you want to do it.
Mm.
And that just, I hope that came across really clearly. I don't know if I could say it in another way, but it builds on itself. And it's like, you just have a hunger for it, and you find ways to bring more time to your practice and to your walk and your evolution, your growth. And that's an important piece to put in here, that in the beginning, it may feel like a got to or a have to, but before you know it, one day you're actually looking forward to it. And before you know it, after that, then it's like, I wait. And it's like, wow, who would guess I got here from where I started?
So taking it back to basics. So we've laid a foundation here. We've talked about building the success habits, some guidelines for the success habits, so that you idea of how to step in, realizing you don't have to do something everybody else is doing. You don't have to do it like they're doing. You don't have to do anything that doesn't resonate with you. So finding those tools that resonate with you without judgment, without needing to put yourself in a box. But let's unravel all of that for a second and go back to the basics. And this is something that I brought up in a previous podcast that it still sits with me, and it's such a profound thought. And that is, when we came out of the womb, we were presence and breath. That's it. And wow, what a powerful metaphor, what a powerful state of being, to be in presence, breathe. That is really the foundation of meditation. So now you to see how these layer together and why they're important. Meditation is a wonderful buzz, like all the physical words that we've been to for years. Our desire, regardless of whether it's metaphysical or spiritual or religious or whatever, that here at Adventures in Truth, is that we want to uncover and unravel the truth of what we're experiencing, or what we're attempting to experience, or what we're encouraging to experience. And so when you think about meditation, if you think about it as presence and breath, and within the presence is stillness or quiet, it's that simple, really, to create a space, a sacred space where you get to just be with yourself. And you can create this space anywhere in your house, in a corner. It doesn't have to be lavish. It just needs to be a space that makes you feel comfortable to allow open that heart door, to open that mind.
Won't get back in that box. And I have gone through an awful lot of structured, formal, committed, all kinds of different programs and institutions and organizations, and learned a great deal. But I think I know that my learning has increased tenfold in the last year by being willing to turn my back to that and walk away from it and just know and understand God wants to show me a lot more. And I'm going to have to go find it on my own. And again, it's the knock and seek, and it's there. I can't stress enough, we have access to everything we've ever experienced, both in this life and in past lives, everything that's ever been written, everything that's ever been spoken. All of the information is available to us, but you're going to have to go find it yourself. I can't give it to you. And in a past podcast, we've been talking about how truth cannot be learned. It has to be experienced. And that's how we learn our truths, is no one can tell you what truth is. You have to learn it through your experience. And that's the kind of the genesis and the impetus behind this whole thing that we're doing in Adventures in Truth, is that you got to get out of the box and go find it for yourself. And if you could consider us truthologists like a sociologist or an anthropologist who's getting out there and digging under the rocks and, behind these and places that other people wouldn't look, we're finding some pretty neat stuff, and we love sharing that with people.
It definitely requires a commitment, because the expression being in the world but not of it. Being of the world will not allow you to navigate this faith and trust in life will evolve. That's why we're here. Part of that evolution is breaking free of the box. We're in a time period now with this pandemic that we have such an extraordinary opportunity to bust that motherfucking box wide open. Pardon my French, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So give yourselves permission.
Your French is making me laugh, Jim.
I'm not great at French, but I can get a few words in here and there, so it all works. So we are at the point here, guys, where it's time to wrap up our amazing time together, and we thank you so much. Ask you to please share and subscribe and talk about us and share it with your friends, and we are every day striving to get the message out there, to lay a foundation for people to catapult their own transformation. So please utilize our tools, utilize our service here to allow yourself to explode into way more than you've ever been. And we're going to say hi to Michael and Kathleen out there for joining. Hi, guys. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Jeff, anything you'd like to say on the way out?
No, just appreciate the opportunity to be a part of all of this. And, it's a group effort for sure. We wouldn't be doing this if there weren't people paying attention, listening, participating. It's a joy and a pleasure, and truly working with you, Jim, makes it all the more so.
And back at you, brother. Please check out our website, www.adventuresintruth.com or adventuresintruthpodcast.com. You can check out all of our latest podcasts. We have a full library of amazing material. These new live television shows are extraordinary and an amazing opportunity that we're really loving to participate in. And we also do in-studio podcasts that are produced a little differently, but they carry the same messages, and we hope you get to check us out there. We'll be here every Wednesdays at 8 a.m., Fridays at 5 p.m. Yes. Right? Did I get that right? Yeah.
5 p.m. where you are.
Well, 4 p.m. Sorry. Fridays, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Wednesdays, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
There you go. Awesome.
And we'll look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thank you for joining us here at Adventures in Truth Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Adventures in Truth podcast. If you would like to listen to more or to explore all our offerings, visit us on the web at www.adventuresintruthpodcast.com.